All right, let's dive right in and crack the code on one of Microsoft's newest certifications, the AB-900 beta exam. If you're an admin trying to get your head around this new world of AI inside Microsoft 365, then believe me, this one is for you. Ryan Moore here to break down another Microsoft beta exam. And together, we're going to walk through exactly what you need to know to get prepped and ready for this really fundamental cert. So, what's the certification all about, really? Well, at its heart, it's all about proving you've got the essential skills to manage a modern Microsoft 365 environment, one that's now supercharged with AI tools like Copilot and agents. It's about keeping that whole ecosystem supported, secure, and totally protected. We've got a super clear game plan for this. We're going to start with the exam's three main pillars. Then we'll dive deep into each one. First, the M365 core services, then protecting and governing data, and then the nitty-gritty of administering Copilot and agents. After all that, we'll wrap up with your path to actually getting certified. Okay, let's jump in. First things first, let's look at the big picture. The whole AB-900 exam is really built on these three pillars of knowledge. And understanding how they're weighted, that is absolutely key to focusing your study time where it's going to count the most. Now check this out. The breakdown here is really telling. You can see right away that data protection and governance is the biggest piece of the pie, right? It's clocking in at 35 to 40%. That screams that Microsoft is putting a massive emphasis on securing data in this new AI era. So right there, you know where you need to have a really deep focus. Okay, so let's tackle that first pillar, mastering M365 core services. This section makes up about a third of the exam, and you got to think of it as the bedrock. You can't build a secure AI-powered house without a solid foundation, and this is it. You just can't skip this stuff. So the exam really expects you to know the fundamental building blocks of the M365 world. This means understanding how, assigning a license to a user actually unlocks features, or where to configure mailboxes in the Exchange Admin Center, how to wrangle permissions in SharePoint and set policies in Teams. It's all about knowing the what and the where. Now, inside that foundation, security is everything. And the guiding philosophy you absolutely have to wrap your head around is zero trust. The entire modern security model for Microsoft 365 is built on this one idea: never trust, always verify. It means you treat every single access request that it's coming from a completely untrusted network. So what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, you need to know about secure sign-ins with things like multi-factor authentication. You have to understand authorization through Microsoft Entra. That's what manages all your user identities and access. You need to know how Defender protects you from threats, and how Privileged Identity Management, or PIM, gives your admins just-in-time access, so they only have those super user rights when they absolutely need them. Okay, now let's see how those security fundamentals build into our next section, which is protecting and governing data. And like we saw on the chart, this is the heavyweight champion of the exam. It's a huge 35 to 40% of your score. So if you get this part right, you are well on your way. And when you think data governance and protection in Microsoft 365, you need to think one thing: Microsoft Purview. This is the suite of tools. It's the central hub for literally everything we're about to cover in this domain. It's your command center for all things data. The exam is going to test you on how all these Purview tools work together. For instance, you need to know how applying a confidential sensitivity label doesn't just classify data, but it can also automatically kick off a data loss prevention policy to stop it from being emailed outside the company. You have to understand that entire chain, from classification to protection to retention, to really nail this section. And this slide, this brilliantly illustrates the core security model for Copilot. A lot of people worry that AI gets some kind of special all-access pass to your data. It absolutely does not. Copilot's access is tied directly to the user's own permissions all through the Microsoft Graph. What that means is all the security and compliance controls you already have in place with Purview and Defender, that's what's keeping your data safe. And that brings us to our final knowledge area, the day-to-day administration of Copilot and agents. This is really where the rubber meets the road. These are the practical, hands-on skills you'll actually be using to manage these incredibly powerful new AI tools. So the crucial thing here is to understand the difference between Copilot and agents. Think of Copilot as your general-purpose productivity assistant. It's built in, it's broad. Agents, on the other hand, are specialized tools that you build and you deploy for very specific automated tasks, and they often have a different pay-as-you-go licensing model. Now, when it comes to these agents, you've got to know their lifecycle. It's a really structured process. You create them, you control who can use them, you test and publish them, and then finally, you monitor their usage and their performance to the M365 and Power Platform admin centers. It's a complete cycle of governance. For Copilot itself, your admin tasks are a little different. Here, you'll be responsible for assigning licenses, keeping an eye on who's actually using it with the analytics dashboard, managing any of that pay-as-you-go billing, and even governing how prompts are used and shared across your entire organization. All right, so we've covered the three big pillars of the exam. Now let's bring it all home and talk about your path to actually getting this thing done and getting certified. First things first, you need to know your target. The magic number to pass this exam is 700. It's a clear, concrete goal to aim for as you get ready. So let's recap the most important takeaways. First, put a heavy focus on data governance. You have to master Microsoft Purview. Second, your security foundations, especially Zero Trust and Microsoft Entra, they have to be rock solid. Third, know your core M365 objects and which admin center to use for each one. And finally, be crystal clear on the differences between what Copilot is and what agents are. So there you have it. We've laid out the entire map for the AB-900 exam, the key domains, the critical concepts, and exactly where to focus your energy. The only question left is, are you ready to start the journey?